judges, ladies and gentlemen, and fellow speakers, good morning. What do we await after the long 40 days of Lent? Are we preparing ourselves to commemorate the suffering of Christ, or are we preparing ourselves for his glorious resurrection? Of course, we are preparing for his resurrection, the event that many had been waiting a long time for because they wanted to be saved. Jesus came to save us from eternal death and sin. To save us, Jesus performed the wondrous miracle of being risen from the dead. He did not save us when he suffered for so long beforehand, but when he rose again. What is important is that we remember that Jesus came for us, and we had awaited him for so many years to come and save us, not knowing that he would also suffer for our sake. Let's begin by realizing that the resurrection was the most glorious event for humanity. We should not take lightly all of Christ's passion and suffering. However, Christ wants us to focus more on the resurrection, our salvation. In Matthew 28:9, it says, "As they, the myrrh-bearing woman, went to tell his disciples, behold, Jesus met them, saying, 'Rejoice.'" Clearly, the resurrection was and still is a time for rejoicing and gladness. We can also look at John 16:20-22, when Christ says, "Most assuredly I say to you, that you will weep and lament, but the world will rejoice. You will be sorrowful, but your sorrow will be turned into joy. A woman, when she is in labor, has sorrow because her hour has come. But as soon as she has given birth to the child, she no longer remembers the anguish, for joy that a human being has been born into the world. Therefore, you now have sorrow, but I will see you again, and your heart will rejoice, and your joy no one will take from you." By this, Jesus means that though we will never forget his suffering, we will always rejoice and think of Christ rising from the dead as the greater event that gave us new life. Finally, another reason that our Orthodox Church focuses on the resurrection of Christ is related to why Christ rose from the dead for us. Christ rose from the dead to save us from eternal sin and death coming over us. Christ has now given us the opportunity of eternal life in the kingdom of heaven with him. Imagine how Christ, though he endured much suffering, truly saved us, destroyed evil, and offered us something magnificent. We commemorate this every Easter when we sing in church, "Christ is risen from the dead, by death trampling upon death, and has bestowed life upon those in the tombs." These are meaningful, powerful words. We need to take what opportunities the Lord has given us and follow his teachings as much as possible, so we can hopefully reach the kingdom of heaven, the good and great opportunity Christ has given us. To conclude, the resurrection of Christ is and should be focused on more than the passion and suffering of Christ, because with it, we had reason to rejoice. With it, we received new light and hope. With it, we acquired freedom from eternal death and sin. And with it, we were offered a wondrous opportunity from the Lord, the kingdom of heaven. Truly, the Lord wants us to be glad in his magnificent resurrection, and that is why we spend so much time celebrating. We need to remember that we should follow Christ's teachings so that hopefully one day we can reach the kingdom of heaven and eternal life, the opportunities Christ gave us all. Thank you.